Good evening and welcome to another edition of Up in the Air. I'm Dakota Smith.
And I'm Ryan Breton. Dakota, we have a pretty busy show planned for you tonight. Allison Lederer is here once again this week with our risk report.
That's right, and Meredith will be joining us at the Climate Wall with our climate outlook for the next 8 to 14 days.
But there's a lot of news and information coming out of the weather enterprise and climate world, so let's begin with Update in the Air.
Internationally, a wildfire rages on in eastern Australia. Particularly, the eastern state of New South Wales has seen the worst fire disaster in over 45 years. At the moment, 3 major fires are burning, with fears of them joining creating one massive fire. The state mine fire remains the largest fire, burning just over 100,000 acres of land. The fires have already destroyed over 200 homes and damaged nearly 100 homes and taken 1 life. Evacuations are underway to avoid further loss of property and life. Several children have been arrested for deliberately lighting the fires. High winds and high temperatures and extremely dry air have resulted in their fast and widespread characteristics. Forecasts call for fire conditions to persist as high winds and hot conditions will continue to fuel the fires for at least the next few days.
Following the release of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change's 5th assessment report earlier this month, members of the insurance industry have lined up in support of climate change. Laura Mowry, head of Minneapolis-based reinsurance broker Guy Carpenter & Company, told Business Insurance Magazine that she believes it is critical for the insurance industry to understand any potential changes in our weather and climate. Given the IPCC's report is the official scientific consensus accepted by the government, Mowry believes it is a necessity for the insurance industry to review its recommendations and projections. If the insurance industry can adapt to changes in our climate that are reflected in this latest report, it could result in major savings later. Mark Way, head of a New York City-based reinsurance company, also told the magazine that it would, quote, be foolish to not listen.
The World Health Organization has officially classified outdoor air pollution as a leading cause of cancer. This classification will bring more attention to air pollution and its potential health risks. The World Health Organization hopes employers will take air pollution into consideration while working prolonged periods of time outdoors. Lawsuits are expected to increase following the declaration. Several lawyers believe that the declaration is proof linking outdoor activity with lung cancer. In the future, health risks due to poor air quality may be an official occupational disease leading to work injury compensation. In the meantime, doctors advise the government to take more precautions to safeguard the public from high concern pollution days.
An unusual early season blizzard that moved through the Dakotas earlier this month is turning out to be more catastrophic than expected. Not only were residents of South Dakota unprepared for the several inches of snow that fell, but cattle were not either. Many did not have their winter coats yet, and many had not been moved from their summer to winter pastures. Jody Foster, the executive director of South Dakota's Cattlemen's Association, told the Weather Channel that, quote, tens of thousands of animals died in the storm. Up to 3 feet of snow was followed by a cold rain in much of the Black Hills, and many cattle died from hypothermia. More than this being a devastating blow to livestock, a major impact is expected to South Dakota's economy. Agriculture is South Dakota's #1 industry according to the USDA. Ranch lands were generally hit hardest by the storm, and the cattle crop for both the rest of this year and next year has been lost as a result. For every state resident, it is estimated that the state of South Dakota has approximately 5 beef cattle. While South Dakota has certainly experienced livestock losses in previous storms, few storms rival the impact that this one has had. It is too premature to determine the exact economic impact. However, it will be calculated in the weeks and months ahead as dead cattle are retrieved.
1 year ago this week, Hurricane Sandy devastated the East Coast, killing 100 people and causing $65 billion in damage. Many communities and businesses have been rebuilt and returned to normal. Several businesses continue to wait for funds from disaster relief grants to continue the rebuilding process. In addition, some new businesses have sprung up since Hurricane Sandy, including one company, MakeSpace. The company was inspired by the painful and chaotic packing experience that occurred amidst Hurricane Sandy. The founder imagines MakeSpace as a storage unit acting like a Dropbox, where plastic storage units are dropped off and picked up directly from your residence. The founder hopes in dire situations, his company can be utilized to protect homeowners' clothes and goods.
Weather outlooks have been released by numerous outlets for the upcoming winter, and the energy outlook for the upcoming winter has also been released by the U.S. Energy Information Administration. More than 90% of the 116 million homes in this country are expected to have higher heating costs this winter due to rising prices of natural gas, propane, and electricity. There are ways to save money in the long term. It is estimated that you can save 1% on your heating bill for every degree a thermostat is set back. A few other ways, according to the Energy Department, include thinking of the sun as a heater, opening your drapes when you are getting direct sunlight and closing them once the sun goes down. Make sure your damper in your fireplace is also closed when you aren't using it. And shut off kitchen and bathroom fans as soon as they are no longer needed. We'll be back in a moment with more here on Up in the Air.
Welcome back, and now we're joined by our Weather Risk Management Club here in Penn State Meteorology, and they're here with our weekly risk report.
That's right. We're joined once again by Allison Lederer. Allison, great to have you. What's one thing that weather affects in our everyday lives?
Thanks for having me. To get right to your question, weather can really be a nuisance, but I think we can agree that when it comes to traveling, bad weather is one of our biggest fears. If unexpected weather pops up or a big storm moves in, we are all helpless to its effects when traveling.
So how does weather risk play into this?
Well, one travel industry that weather is a huge part of is aviation. Because planes have to maneuver around storms, high winds, and other factors, weather can either make or break an airline company. Most airlines even have a team of meteorologists who help forecast and plan for flights. Also, because weather is such an important part of flying, all pilots and dispatchers must be able to read TAFs, a forecast written by government meteorologists.
Now, Allison, you mentioned how storms and high winds affect airlines. Can you explain that a little more?
At my time with Southwest Airlines this summer, I learned a lot about Pacific weather events that affect airlines and the individual planes the most. An obvious weather phenomenon is lightning. Thunderstorm cells can pop up quickly, so pilots must be ready to take action. Another obvious feature is wind gusts. Knowing the winds is not only important for taking off and flying the plane, but stocking the plane with the right amount of fuel, so it will be able to reach its final destination.
So we've kind of talked about the summer months. Are there any particular winter weather phenomena that impact air travel?
During the winter months, frost can be a major threat to the airline company. Frost can really damage an aircraft and can cost the company a lot of money. The maintenance crew needs to know when anti-freeze procedure needs to be used. So a frost forecast can really save a company time and money. So as you can see, weather can affect a lot of different parts when it comes to planes.
Now, with all that in mind, what can meteorologists do to help the airline save money?
One huge expense that airlines have is jet fuel for their planes. Jet fuel is a product of crude oil and can become very expensive in a short amount of time. Meteorologists can help with the expense of jet fuel in two ways. One way is helping to tell the company when jet fuel has a low price, because the crude oil market is heavily impacted by weather. Another way is to help the company determine how the weather will affect individual planes and trips. This is useful information for the people who need to figure out how much fuel to put into the plane. Putting too much fuel can make the trip go slower and be wasteful, but putting too little can result in planes having to diverge to different cities.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Allison, for joining us. We look forward to seeing you and the Weather Risk team every week.
Thanks for having me back, and I look forward to having future members of our club here on the show.
All right, thank you, Allison, and we'll be back in a moment with more from Up in the Air. And welcome back to Up in the Air. We have certainly seen some major changes here in central PA, Dakota, but it's gone along with what our climate outlook was, and that was for below normal temperatures and increased amounts of precipitation compared to what we saw last month.
Absolutely. I'm glad I got the forecast right. And we're expecting to see that continue at least into the next week. And here now we have Meredith with us with the climate outlook for the next 8 to 14 days.
Thanks, Ryan and Dakota. Well, recently we've been experiencing some much cooler and wetter weather than something that we're used to, as we've been having those extended Indian summer type days throughout much of October. However, looking into the next week or so, we will see that much of Maine, Florida, and Texas, that entire eastern seaboard, is going to see much wetter weather than we've recently been experiencing. Most of this rainfall is going to be situated above the Appalachian Mountains, extending up into Pennsylvania and down into Georgia. However, moving to the west coast, we see that they're experiencing the quite opposite of what we have over here, with much drier weather than they're used to at this time of the year. With Halloween right around the corner, most of the plains are going to need to be wearing a coat when they go out trick-or-treating, especially the little kids, as it's going to be very cold around that Halloween time. Most of this colder weather is sitting right above Oklahoma, but its effects are being felt from State College to Georgia all the way in to Arizona. Miami, however, is still feeling those warm summer temperatures as they're still sitting above average for this type of year. As well as the part of California, Oregon, and Washington, they're all feeling above normal temperatures for this Halloween season. Now, Ryan and Dakota, Up in the Air will be back in a moment.
Welcome back, and in this week's Meteorology Minute, we'll be taking a trip to Greenland.
That's right. From NASA Goddard, in this clip, we'll be learning about a canyon that exists in Greenland and what role weather and climate may be playing in that.
Buried under a mile of ice, it's never been seen by human eyes. But using ice-penetrating radar, scientists have discovered a giant canyon carved into Greenland's bedrock. More than 400 miles long and up to a half-mile deep, shown here is the dark brown groove in the center of the island. The canyon is thought to predate Greenland's massive ice sheet. The hidden feature was discovered by a team led by the University of Bristol, using radar data from a number of airborne campaigns from the United Kingdom and Germany, and a NASA mission called Operation Icebridge, which surveys this region with a range of different instruments every year to monitor changes in the Greenland ice sheet. From the interior of Greenland, the canyon snakes around up to the fjord of the Petermann Glacier on the northern coast, and researchers suspect it may play a major role in transporting meltwater below the ice into the Arctic Ocean.
Well, Dakota, another great episode here in Up in the Air.
Absolutely, and we'd like to thank Allison and the Weather Risk Management Club for joining us. They'll be back next week with another risk report.
That's right. Also next week, you can look forward to Meredith and Dakota being here at the desk with the latest news and information from the Weather Enterprise and Climate World, and I'll be over at the Climate Wall with the 8 to 14 day temperature and precipitation outlook for the United States. In the meantime, I'm Ryan Breton.
And I'm Dakota Smith. Join us next time, Up in the Air.